So we're going from an all-male 5-person panel to just a 2-person all-women panel.
One of us is worth 2.5 of them.
Exactly. So it is really, Esther, thank you for being here. It's my great honor to interview you. We actually did an article, or I did an article a little while ago where you talked to me about your thoughts on AI. I date back to the 80s following you. You didn't know me, but you were certainly somebody who held a lot of influence in the technology world, and you were involved in AI way back then. And actually, a futurist in many ways, predicting what would happen with technology. I'm sure a lot of the things that are coming to pass are what you saw was possible. But let's talk a little bit about why now AI is starting to take hold when it's been around all this time.
Well, actually, it's not that new. Back in the 80s, there was another form of AI, which was called expert systems, which were basically rule-based executors. Now you have things like if then, if this, then that, and lots of logic modules. We don't even call them AI anymore because they were based on logic, and a lot of the current AI is based more on neural patterns, neural nets, recognition of things, pattern matching, and if this, then that kind of expert system is based on very little data. You just give it rules and you have categories, and if sales performance is above 30, then bonus equals 35. If sales performance is between 20 and 30. It sounds extremely boring now, but in those days it was considered pretty amazing. Right. And we're now moving from basically pattern matching to something called deep learning, which is probably closer to making analogies and kind of transforming learning patterns from one situation to another. But I just want to go back to this thing about translation. It's not. Don't kid yourself that it's understanding yet. It is. They're using longer and longer strings of text, so you get better and better at putting the right words in, so you know whether, from the context. Perhaps you've been watching what the person is searching. You know whether they're looking for a hotel in Paris or a has-been celebrity. So it's not that amazing, and once everybody understands how it works, we will probably not even call it AI anymore. It'll just be useful software that's part of the suite you expect, and then there will be something that works with metaphors. And I think part of human intelligence is actually based on the ability to make mistakes. Just the way evolution is based on the ability to have mutations and then pick the better things, because the negative mistakes die off, the creative mistakes flourish.
So maybe artificial intelligence or computer intelligence, the downfall is that it's too perfect.
Yeah, it's too precise. Right. It doesn't improve. But the thing that there's a big difference between intelligence and consciousness or purpose. Mm-hmm. And that gets into neuroscience, which is a passion of mine, but it's probably not our topic today.
I'm kind of curious to think what you think of the movie Her, or if you think that that's just so fantastical. Is that something that we could get to with
what I loved about it was that it actually was about time. It was about the mismatch between the person's time, which was actually pretty slow. I don't even remember what movie it was in, but there were these two extraterrestrial intelligences talking about a human being. And they said, it's really amazing. This thing, it thinks and it computes, but do you know how it does it? It does it with meat. Yeah, I mean, imagine thinking with meat.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
And it's amazing. I mean, the human brain is an amazing computing machine, too.
Right.
It's evolved over millions of years to do things that a computer has to relearn.
Very slowly. But it's it's not very efficient, but it's creative, and it's extremely slow. And she had, I think it was like 867 boyfriends or something.
Right.
And
that she was talking to all at the same time.
Yes.
Right.
I love that movie.
Yeah, me too. So, well, let's turn the conversation back to marketing and advertising a little bit.
Okay.
Esther has she sat on the WPP board for 14 years. Now they have a 5-year limit.
10 years.
Or a 10-year limit. So you surpassed the limit.
Yeah, I lasted like 4 years, and then finally
hanging on to your ankles, I would imagine. But I would imagine also that your role on the board was to help them with technology decisions.
Yeah.
And is AI making it to the boardroom, do you think? Are they having these conversations about how it affects the overall business?
I'm sure they are now. But, I mean, first of all, yeah, I joined the board, I think, in 1999, and they needed someone from the internet. And, being a woman was kind of a plus. And I think I sort of disappointed them by, hey, I care about corporate governance and revenues and profits and expansion into markets just like anybody else. Mm-hmm. And then there was the big bubble, and it was sort of like, oh, good, we don't need to deal with this internet stuff anymore. Except for Martin, who, those of you who know me, was already using his BlackBerry, and if you wanted to get his attention at a board meeting, you would just text him, and it was a wonderful board to be on. Yeah. And, I mean, AI it's a technology, and it shows up in a bunch of applications. So the first thing to understand about AI is it may be in lots of different departments and lots of different places, but it fundamentally doesn't replace people as much as it replaces tasks. Because if you can't define what it's supposed to do, it's really not going to be able to do it. Just like most of your workers actually have tasks. Then you have these creative people at the top who make strategies and create new markets or dream up new things, but they're not going to be replaced by AI for a very long time. Mm-hmm. So AI fundamentally does things you're already doing or that you wish you could do, but that you can define pretty well more effectively. I mean, the whole shift to digital, I think, was much more interesting from a business strategy point of view because it was about how your customers interacted with brands and with media. AI, in a sense, what you're trying to do with customer-facing AI is pretend to be people. And, it's like, can AI be emotional? Can Don Draper genuinely have empathy? I mean, maybe down at the bottom of his little, if you like, damaged soul, he has a lot of empathy. But AI can be manipulative. It can be as empathetic as any kind of fundamentally shallow person can be. And maybe more effectively.
Maybe so. I mean, going back to the conversation that we just had up here, we talked about AI as a contributor to creating an emotional connection. And I thought there was actually some skepticism from some of the panelists on that. Have you seen anything that you think encourages the idea that we can create a better emotional connection using AI technology?
Maybe yes, maybe no. So this is a really weird story, but I hit the 35,000 lifetime Avios points on British Airways. Oh, so, I can stay gold without flying them, and I don't fly them very much, but when I see them, I feel slightly guilty, as if I had abandoned a friend. I mean, it's totally nuts. And, it wasn't AI, but it wasn't, I don't delude myself that British Airways is a person or misses me, but there's some emotional connection there. It has to do with everything from all the airport lounges I've suffered through and the curry meals and all this. So AI enables you to interact more frequently. I mean, one reason I love Delta is because they let me track my luggage. It's not that I'm deluded that there's a person sending me messages tracking my luggage, but there's a sense that Delta is interacting with me. I know American Airlines, I know which seats are good. It's sort of like familiarity.
Yeah.
It's not delusion. It's this familiarity that doesn't breed contempt, but breeds kind of, I know they're manipulating me, but I know how they're doing it, and I can manipulate them back.
And sometimes it's things that you gravitate toward. I mean, what shows up in my Instagram feed, I know is no accident.
Yeah. And that's nice. You
yeah.
know that they're watching you, and, I mean, people have different reactions to that, and there's certain things, you don't want them to sort of say, "You're looking kind of tired today, Esther. Would you like some more eye makeup or whatever?"
Have you seen the social home robot Jibo by any chance?
No.
Okay. Just seeing some things. I mean, the way we interact with Alexa, the way we interact with Siri, I think sometimes people are free to yell at them when they're feeling angry, and there's something that's cathartic about that.
Yeah, you can kick a door too.
I know that there are projects underway to make robots more emotive, and that, as they were saying up here before, that may fool us into interacting with them as their people.
I mean, people project a lot anyway. It's like, I don't really want the robot pretending to be a person. I'm perfectly happy to project my own emotions onto it and, get a useful response. And again, people will vary, and it depends on the context. But a good robot might remind you, you may be feeling upset right now, but tomorrow is going to be another day. And,
right.
That's fake, but hey, it's a good reminder, and it's true.
Right. So the concept of AI, and I think you were saying that maybe we won't even call it AI at some point, but you said at one point, the point of AI is to not be noticeable, which is, it does make it, it is something that is less overt than, say, when the digital revolution happened. There were devices that went along with that. You had to take action to be a part of the digital revolution, but we're all experiencing things, sometimes not even noticing it. What are some of the better applications? Like, how are our lives being improved?
I mean, again, most of the use of AI is really in the background, selecting stuff for you, making things. I mean, the AI, there is a huge amount of AI in Uber, but it's mostly around scheduling, dynamic pricing, which driver can get to you first. 20 years ago, we might have said that the ratings were AI because they were using data in a very clever way. I mean, AI really is a moving target. And so there's this kind of humanoid AI, which is the interaction part, and then there's all the other stuff that just makes the whole system less annoying without, it doesn't really matter is this human or not. And frankly, when I get a letter from customer support, I can tell it's human if it has spelling mistakes, because the chat bot is usually, somebody did bother to write it properly.
I think that's important. Your email tagline, her email tagline says, "Make new mistakes every day." Is that kind of your point, is that we actually learn more from our mistakes?
Yeah, because if you don't make a mistake, you never know what might have happened better.
Right.
And you don't know what you did right versus what you just got lucky about.
Right, there's an element of fate.
Yeah.
So, let's talk a little bit about sort of the ethics of AI. We have Mike Azara in the room. Mm-hmm. I know he's written an article about that.
Well, he's thought about it too.
What about the debate between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg? There's the battle of the titans.
Yeah.
Two opposite ends of the spectrum. What do you think?
Don't you realize they're just two bots? And one, I mean, to prepare for this, I tried to find out what the argument was really about, and I couldn't. And
the answer is probably somewhere in the middle too.
Yeah, I mean, precisely because AI is a technology, it is extremely powerful, but in both directions. It can be really useful. It can help it can just make the world so much more efficient. It can allocate resources effectively. It can, deal with traffic problems, whatever.
Right. There are a lot of good things.
Yeah,
that we
and
get
then,
from it, yeah.
but it can also, there's this whole argument about bots picking up human biases. Bots pick up human biases, so do humans. Mm-hmm. And the challenge, whether you're training bots or people, is to notice those biases and eradicate them. Like, don't look at Google and say, well, we only have 20% women here. That must be because they're not very good, because if they were good, we would have hired them. And whether you're telling that to a bot that's making hiring decisions or to an HR person, it's still misleading information.
Or a bot may make a more rational decision, too.
Then there's the sort of the Uber bot, super intelligence. Are we going to create machines that are more intelligent than we are, and they're going to wipe us out? I think we're more likely to go to some kind of symbiosis between machines and brains. And, if the things that come along are really better, it's hard to say that we should persist. I happen to believe we evolved from something that wasn't as smart as we are.
Yeah.
We have the capacity for evil. We also have the capacity for purpose. We have consciousness and the ability to perceive time in a perception way rather than a calculating way. And at some point, machines may really become human, but when they become human, then they'll be human. And then we have to judge them as evil or not, rather than as something we control into which we put the wrong algorithms.
Right. Yeah, evil usually stems from another form of evil, and that would be perhaps a person, although AI is a mighty powerful tool. It's kind of like a nuclear bomb.
Right, it can be used by evil people.
Exactly.
And just like nuclear bombs, which happen to be in the news right now.
Yeah, right.
When they get into the hands of evil people, they're extremely powerful, and that's
dangerous.
It's a lot easier to destroy the world than to reconstruct it. So AI has the capacity for great evil, but it depends more on what we do with it than on the nature of AI itself.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read Future Crimes, but that actually paints a pretty terrible picture of what can happen. And actually, we invest in cybersecurity, so that's one of the areas that, you develop a lot of paranoia when you sit with these types of companies, yes. But you got to keep on fighting the fight. So, we heard too what some of the other panelists thought about AI impact on jobs, and you've touched on that a little bit. Do you not think that we are going to lose some portion of the workforce to AI?
We're going to lose some large portion of the tasks to AI, just as we automated farming, essentially. We've automated lots of different forms of transport. We're automating all kinds of stuff. If I were running the world, with or without AI, I think the universal basic income is a horrible idea because it takes away purpose. People feel useless. I saw that. I spent a lot of time in Russia.
Right.
And they basically have a UBI, and then you still have to show up at work sort of to show that you deserve to receive this UBI, but they didn't really focus on productivity or what the people were doing. It's a slight overstatement, but not entirely. So I would much rather see us change things by pricing the externalities back into wages. In other words, teachers, home caregivers, all these people who invest in people. There still is a difference between a bot and an actual Jewish mother, that is physically present, caring for your children, or running the football team, or educators, counselors, mental health professionals, that kind of thing. we should consider what we spend on them investment rather than spending.
Right.
And we should pay more, not so much for health care, but for the production of health and mental stability through all these people-centered jobs. I mean, all the research and everything tells you people are happier when they are connected, meeting face-to-face, not meeting over Facebook, not looking at cat videos, but actually playing with the cat with someone next to them. And if 1/3 of the economy is just people in caring professions being paid double what the market will bear, I think we'd have a much happier society.
I like the sound of that. My daughter was a social work major. I figure the good news is that she'll have a job. You know, I'd like to touch on that a little bit too. I know healthcare is very near and dear to what you do every day now. You're actually an investor in a number of healthcare-oriented companies,
Right.
technologies. First, I want to talk about Way to Wellville, but first let's talk about AI in healthcare and the impact that's making. Is that something you're close to and seeing?
Well, I mean, there's one huge impact simply, yes, and again, using big data, whether it's genetics, MRIs, drug discovery, and what they're discovering is no matter what happens, if you have diabetes and hypertension and mental health problems, whatever else you get is going to be much, much worse. It's like you don't necessarily die of those chronic diseases, but
it's comorbidities.
Yeah, they cause a huge reduction, not just in years of life, but in years of health. So in some sense, you don't need AI to know that that's a problem. But anyway, one is for diagnosis and new drugs and stuff like that. The other interesting one is not so much precision medicine, but again, precision mental or emotional assessment. So if I want you to eat better, should I tell you all the other girls are eating this, or should I tell you you can be better than all the other girls by eating this? Do you want to be part of a running team, or do you want to compete to be the best runner? Should I scare you about how awful your future is going to be, or should I say, wow, don't you want to live to see your social worker daughter become the head of a nonprofit or something? So figuring out, by watching behavior, how to motivate people and how to, send, whether it's the bot or the social worker getting tips on how to interact with you, understanding what it is that drives each person, what's going to trigger them to do stuff. So I invested in a company called Dopamine Labs that does that. And they can either use it for improving people's health, or they could probably use it for inducing them to drink more soda.
Oh.
And I invested in them because, like AI, I want them to use it for good rather than what I consider evil.
Right. That's fascinating. I actually have to tell you that I met a company recently who said they could tell by the sound of your voice what illnesses you might be suffering from. So to me,
Probably
I mean,
if they have a baseline or something.
Maybe,
but that's interesting.
It's. I mean, I actually, it's like telling me they could talk to my dead grandma. Like, I'm not so sure I like the sound of it, but I'm not so sure I believe it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it's true, and they say they have like a 95% correlation with diagnoses, it's fascinating. But I have to imagine there are good and bad applications for that, right?
Well, it depends. I mean, if they're using it for an insurance company to deny you coverage because...
Right.
But, I mean, fundamentally, it's very useful information. It depends on how it's used.
To get somebody to the hospital.
But
right?
it is... I find it plausible. I doubt... I mean, I'd love to hear who they are and find out more.
It's an Israeli company.
But in so many of these cases, diagnosis is less... The huge costs in our society are not a mystery. They're not rare diseases, though there's a lot of rare diseases when you add them all up. It's diabetes, hypertension, mental problems, all this stuff that is much broader in its impact.
So let's talk about Way to Wellville. I think that people would like to hear about your nonprofit organization. It's low tech for this conversation, but it's key to some of the things you're saying.
Yeah. Well, it's why I'm not. So we're helping 5 communities that are not on the coasts be healthy, as opposed to funding a hospital or funding a new disease. We're just trying to keep these places healthy. And it's not a nice white lady coming from New York to tell people how to live. We put out a call for applications, 42 communities applied, and we said, we'll come help you do whatever you are doing to keep your place healthy. But over the past 4 years, it started in 2013, my personal interests and how I understand the problems have moved very much from diabetes and smoking and, quote, mental illness, which I didn't, I just thought of as a thing, to how much your early childhood environment and your relations with your parents influence your mental capacity to basically your discount rate. You know the story about the marshmallow? One kid, you go into the room, the researcher says, I'm going to give you a marshmallow, but if you don't eat it, I'll come back in 15 minutes and give you a second marshmallow. And the kid who eats the marshmallow isn't stupid. He comes from a home where you better eat that marshmallow because someone may take it from you, they may never come back. And eating that first marshmallow is correlated with just about everything else. Yeah. Dropping out of school, being jobless, getting pregnant or getting someone pregnant, going to jail, being unmarried, getting addicted. And it's pretty scary. And so this is where there's a connection to all this, the digital world. To the extent parents replace themselves with digital interaction or with nothing, you get, it's a real problem, and I'm concerned about it.
And a lot of people are losing their way. But Way to Wellville is bringing people together and helping them to support each other. And
you make it sound too nice. These are kind of godforsaken places, and we're learning a ton, and we're trying to help them.
I know Hartford, Connecticut is one. That's where I'm from.
Yeah, train parents to be better parents, and of course deal with some practical stuff like diabetes. But it's interesting work, and I don't want to bore you, but for anyone who's interested, I'm happy to talk about it all night long.
Fascinating. Yeah. Good for you. So let's talk about...
How much time do we have?
I don't know. Where are we, Ross?
A few minutes left.
Okay, great.
Usually there's a clock ticking down. So I kind of like a big thought, but how do you think we'll look back on today? Technology has come a really long way. AI is really starting to get traction. It's making a difference where it's being applied. There are a lot of things that are possible that weren't possible before from a chip, computing standpoint. It feels like it's progressed very quickly. But let's look ahead maybe 10 years from now. What will we think about what we were doing today?
Well, when you introduce me as a futurist, I'm really not. I'm much better at understanding the present, and
you predicted the tyranny of email.
Yes,
that came true.
Yeah, and it's because of the business model. There's nothing wrong with email. It's simply the sender imposes the cost of filtering the mail on the recipient. And if I could just charge people to send me mail, it would be great. I mean. You can talk about advertising perhaps in some of the same way. And LinkedIn is probably the closest thing to a different business model. But 10 or 20 years from now, I think we'll look back and we'll either say, thank God we saw some of these problems and we focused on human souls and kind of early neuroscience to make whole people, because we were going down the wrong path.
Because we're drowning in technology?
Not just technology, but basically disinvestment in education, in early childhood experiences, and in bridges and other infrastructure in the environment. This is we are a marshmallow eating culture right now.
Yes.
Or we'll say, this is the big thing that faces us. Are we going to start using AI to make predictions and then to make counterfactual assumptions, like, will somebody pay you back for having invested in these children or in this community? Will we start allowing governments to make short-term investments that won't give a return for 10 years? They're sort of allowed to do it with bridges, but it gets complicated and they need tolls and bonds and so forth. Why don't we issue school bonds? Why don't we just issue human culture bonds or park bonds and invest more in the social fabric of our country? Because right now we're going down a short-term, what's your ROI next week? Did the stock go up or down today? Companies no longer invest in people. They hire them. They want to recruit fully trained people. We have this horrible problem with student loans where you can't discharge your loan into bankruptcy. So, of course, people are happy to give loans to students to go to crappy schools because they still owe the money even if they didn't get the education. So it has less to do with technology and more with, in a sense, the short-term thinking that technology has enabled. But AI and modeling actually allow us to model counterfactual futures as well, and ideally to make the right decisions. Sorry for being kind of gloomy.
No. My next question was going to be, if you could wave a wand, is there a development you would undo? Or is there a particular technology you would speed to deployment? I feel like you've given us a little bit of like what you would wish, but do you think any particular technology can help to get to that type of thing? I mean, technology seems to be the anti to that, but
technology is the enabler of whatever we want. We need to decide what we want.
Okay. So on that note, do we want to ask the audience for questions?
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm just wondering, Esther. Do you think we're at like a crossroads right now? I mean, with AI, it's sort of at the dawn of AI, I guess, is what a lot of people call it. And
yeah, I mean,
like
AI,
we can choose to go this way or this way, and it's either
AI dawned 20 years ago with expert systems. Now we've got, if you like, the pattern recognition and the just big data calculations, the ability to optimize and schedule and dynamically reconfigure and all that kind of stuff. And then maybe, we will get something more akin to consciousness. And we'll have to figure out, how do we want to treat that? And should we trust it? What goals should we give to these machines if they actually do get smarter than we are? But I think there's, this AI is fundamentally not, it's not as interesting as something with purpose. It's also not as scary, because if it's got a purpose and it's not our purpose, that could be pretty scary.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Elon Musk talks a lot about some of that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't agree with Elon Musk that we must stop it. Right. I do agree that we must understand it and control it. But who's we?
Right.
I mean, there are some people on Earth I would not want controlling it.
Who wield great power?
Yeah, starting with North Korea, let's not just be politically incorrect or whatever you want. But
any questions for Esther and Sarah? Oh, Joe.
So it kind of felt to me like you were more optimistic, but on the ledger sheet, are you more optimistic or pessimistic? And what is the most likely unintended consequence you can imagine in the application of marketing? I mean, what we've seen is last year Microsoft's Taz started spewing hate speech.
Oh, right.
And Tay, I'm sorry, not Taz.
Tay.
And just recently it was discovered that Facebook's learning algorithms and machine processing were creating the ability to target people based on being Jew haters. These were machines that figured that out. What do you think?
Okay, I mean, those are machines using human data. And, yeah, I mean, the people put in, let's target, as I understand, I mean, you can recognize words that indicate you're a Jew hater, and someone else that's a human, or perhaps a human with a bot, can say, I want to advertise to these people. The problem is not with the AI, it's with the people. The AI gives the power to these people to do stuff that they might have been stopped by people with common sense before. So there were 3 questions. One, am I optimist or pessimist? I'm fundamentally optimist, because if I were pessimist, I'd just go home. I mean, optimism, again, is this long-term, low discount factor. I'm going to do something now because I think it will pay off in the future. And I mean, this is why I'm not really focused on the use of AI in advertising today. I'm sort of trying to provoke people to think a little more about the long-term issues that we face. You know, there are going to be all kinds of anecdotes about weird things that happen with better pattern recognition of things you might not have been able to suss out, whether it's somebody's illness or, you know, I mean, someone might say, well, using genetics to discover that so-and-so is your long-lost cousin is an application of AI. That's something you would never have known without just technology. We're going to have the possibility to know more and more. So one thing that's going to happen that I don't think people have focused on enough is it completely changes the insurance business. Not just health insurance, but lots of other things. We're going to get so good at predicting risk. And really, insurance should turn into the business of reducing risk rather than just sharing it. And I'm actually an investor in a car insurance company that's focused on safe driving, and it will tell you safer routes, whether that's, you know, just lots of accidents here or lots of criminals here or people running stop signs. Health insurance, you know, we're seeing that now. That's what this issue is around pre-existing conditions. We can predict who's going to cost a lot, and what we're trying to do in Wellville is reduce those costs by keeping people healthy instead of saying this person is poor and, you know, we got his food receipts from Walmart, he eats badly, he's going to cost a lot because he's going to become diabetic and probably get an amputation, so let's not insure him. You know, no, let's not insure him, but let's see if we can get him to eat better. So there's that bifurcation between predicting risk and reducing it. So that's, and that will apply in a lot of other things. I mean, including the whole employment area. You know, some of the discrimination is self-fulfilling. If you put people into the crappy classes in school, of course they're not going to perform as well. And I can predict that if you take this kid and you move him out of the Bronx and you put him in Connecticut, not in North Hartford, but in a nice part of Connecticut, this kid is going to do much better. I mean, I can walk into a classroom in any of my communities and predict that a third of these kids are going to be unhealthily obese by the time they're 19, and why can't we do something about it? So the question is, does all this predicting give us a sense of responsibility, or does it give us a sense of, well, I'm not going to invest in this kid because he's not going to turn out well? Well, the unintended consequence is that we reinforce these trends rather than reduce them. And I just read the headline, but this whole thing about, you know, people are tending to marry to the extent they get married, and that's becoming also, poor people tend not to get married, rich people do. and the rich people tend to marry one another, and that also increases the divisions, or the immobility within society. So those are, depending if you were paying attention or not, those consequences may or may not be unintended. But they're certainly not what, in theory, we should want.
Esther, is one of the solutions to the problem of AI and the fear surrounding AI is finding ways to democratize the technologies? I mean, we tend to associate AI, as we did in the Facebook example, or some of the other examples we've seen recently, that they tend to associate them with large data sets, large institutions that wield enormous amounts of power. They're the ones who can make these machines run, and that's part of our fear, is who's calling the shots, who's aiming them in what direction. Are there ways that these technologies can be democratized so the ways in which we can take control of these technologies, direct them, decide where we really want this intelligence to be aimed, it is sort of more in the hands of individuals and smaller groups where some better ideas can come out on a more of a grassroots level?
I mean, that's really more a question about politics and voting patterns and education than it is, giving.
Well, is it, or having the tool, having a set of data sets that are open and available to large amounts of people to use, apply these technologies to, in the same way that individuals were able to, on some level, take control of the tools of the internet, and we really started seeing voices emerge from outside of the usual institutions.
Yeah, well, the voices are there. They're still there if you want to listen to them. The challenge is using AI is one thing. Again, programming it, deciding which algorithms, you can make that open. But in the end, I think it comes down more to, I'd much rather educate everybody than say even, we're going to let you stay uneducated, but you can have access to the AI. I mean, I don't know what that really means, but I do know that educating people much better across the entire country is going to just put more power into their hands, because they will be listened to, and they will go out and vote, and they'll have better informed opinions and think longer term. So I think it's less a tech question and more a political question. I mean, I can now post on Facebook, but some people get an audience and some don't, and that's much harder to determine. And some people just don't want to hear either side. They don't want fake news or real news. They want cat videos. And again, that goes back to, do you feel you have a purpose in life so that you focus a little more on the long term? Okay, we've silenced everybody.
No, that was a terrific
Thank
talk.
you.
Thank you
Thank
both
you.
very much. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Esther. And thank you all for sticking around for the end of the day here. That does it for the OMMA Data Forum. I hope we see you